Well, I'm too old for law school. I can't do it. I'm in my late 20s. What? Man, I tell them all the time. I'm like, I decided to go to law school at 28.
But yeah, I remember walking to my first class. My first class was contracts, and I was scared.
We're both non traditional law students, and what that means is we essentially had this period of
But yeah, I think that they do try to scare you. I went into one class, one of my civil procedure class. I love the professor. He was great, but man, he was scary that first week. We had, 300 pages to read before the first class, and he was asking questions the first day, and it was like very military style, and
welcome to the Bar None podcast, the podcast that really cuts through the casebook and the classroom chatter to bring you real talk about law school and the legal world and beyond it, really. I'm your co host, Ted Del Sima, and as always, I'm joined by Adan Adornez. And each week we sit down with professors, partners, lawyers, and law listeners and insiders to break down what actually matters. I mean, we try to do this thing with no fluff, no filters, no BS. And whether you're a 1L, a rising associate, or you're just law curious, this is the space where honesty meets the law. And in today's episode is pretty unique because we're just going to be talking to Don about his experience. What was 1L first semester like? Like what did you feel? I want you to be just uncut, real, because some of our listeners are starting school soon. School's about to start in a couple of weeks. We're in August right now. Like, we wanted this episode to really be what to expect, like what's going on. So, Adan, I want to kick it off to you, man. Like, you just finished your, 1L first semester. How was it?
yeah. Well, first off, glad to be here, Ted. You that intro, man, you just nail it every time. It's incredible.
It's repetition, and I have Big Blue right here, my mic. It makes me feel so official.
That's awesome. No, man, I'm just thinking back to last year and this time last year and what it felt like, and I really had no idea what I was going into.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I said in past episodes, like I came from the workforce, similar to you, and I did not know. In undergrad, I played baseball. Like that was my major basically. I didn't really pay attention in school too much. I didn't take it super seriously. I was very focused on my craft, but this was like another pass at school where I was really like, okay, like let's hunker down, like let's focus and let's take it seriously and see where it goes. But yeah, I remember walking to my first class. My first class was contracts, and I was scared. I was 28 years old, like pretty older for a law student, above average age, and I was scared. I was nervous, and I didn't really know what we were gonna learn because all I had heard before was that the LSAT was way different from law school, which it is,
Mm-hmm. It is.
and so I didn't know. The school gave us like this mini course to do before we started, and they basically just told us how to case brief, but no idea what I was gonna get myself into.
Yeah, and I bet a lot of our listeners feel the same, whether you're going to be a 1L, whether you're finishing undergrad and you're like, I think law school's the route for me. Should I go straight through from undergrad to law school? Should I take a explorative period and travel the world, or should I go into the workforce and come back? I think one thing you said, Adon, that you and I, listeners may not know is we're both non traditional law students. And what that means is we essentially had this period of time between graduating undergrad and commencing law school. For me, just like you, I was around 28 years old when I realized, you know what? I don't know if I want to be in finance anymore, man. And I tell people the same stuff: make more, spend less, save more. And I'm like, I think I want to go to law school at 28, and that was the same thing for you, Adon. Like you were playing baseball at the high level, and you're like, I think I'm gonna go to school, and I think I want to be a lawyer. So, for our listeners, my question is, what shaped that decision for you? You're like you're in a different career. Why did you pivot from that career to law school?
Yeah. So just a little bit of background. Like I played so I played baseball in undergrad. In college, I went to North Carolina A&T, which is it's a small school in North Carolina. Had a great experience there. I mean, it was just like a growing moment as undergrad is for most people, you know. So from 18 to 21, 22, I was over there. And really my full focus was baseball. And I wanted to play in the big leagues. That was my goal. So I got to my senior year, and a couple injuries later, things happen. I mean, as the people have been in baseball know that it's half skill and half luck. And so
Right.
that luck part was not there. I mean, I had some skill, but just wasn't able to make it to the big leagues, as most people. um, but then I actually found myself coaching in professional baseball. So I coached with the Philadelphia Phillies for 2 years, and I thought that I would get the same out of coaching as I got out of playing. I was like, okay, this is like a good transition for me. It's a good progression where now I'm on the other side of the ball.
Hmm.
And after that second
Literally.
year, yeah, literally,
Literally.
and yeah, so after the second year, I realized that it just wasn't really. It didn't give me the same sense of joy and fulfillment that playing did.
Hmm.
So yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't the same, and I knew that I wanted to have a family. I knew that I wanted to settle down, and pro baseball isn't super conducive to that because you're on the road for so long. You're on the road 6, 7 months out of the year, and so for me, I was getting older. I started dating my now fiance, and it's like, okay, like if I want the life that I want, it's just coaching pro baseball is not at the moment what's gonna lead me to that. And so then I went back to Florida, and I started working at my family's construction company as a GC and project manager. And so I started doing a lot of projects with them. And again, I just had this thing where it was like it just wasn't truly fulfilling. Real estate and construction is some people think it's fun and it's challenging. It just wasn't super mentally stimulating for me. Frankly, like being out at a job site looking after construction workers, which are actually very skilled and very smart people in their own right. But I wanted to sit down and analyze things. I wanted to read. I wanted to learn, and so I just wasn't really getting that from there. And so I was like, okay, what is every single real estate deal, every single construction deal that we did had element of law to it,
Hmm.
and we needed a lawyer for every single transaction that we did, every single permit. There's some sort of law or lobbying. Right now, I know you're dealing with a permit for your condo, and so everything has to do with the law. And so I was like, okay, well, I think the next progression for me is law school because it's somewhere where I can really learn and know how to go about construction or real estate, and but I can actually apply it, and I can apply it in a way that fits me, which is analyzing, thinking, writing, reading, instead of being out, and I'm not the best salesperson, but I am good at creating systems and analyzing, and strategizing, which that's part of what a lawyer does. And so yeah, that's I found myself in law school last year. Yeah, literally a year, a little bit less than a year ago. So it'll be a year next week.
Wow, wow, wow. So then your path was a little bit different, right? So am I correct in saying in during your undergrad period you didn't like study legal studies or philosophy or anything like that?
Zero. I started off in biology because
Wow.
my roommate was also in biology, and he was like, "Oh, let's become doctors." And I was like, "Well, I don't care about being a doctor. I want to play in the big leagues, but I'll go in biology just to, I think it'd be cool to learn." But then I quickly found out once I got to organic chemistry that you actually had to like study. So he would be studying and I would be at the baseball field. And I knew that we were gonna take, a radically different paths. And so I switched my major to psychology, which, is a little bit less rigorous. And once I switched my major, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna go all in on baseball. So I wouldn't say I was the best at going to class. Being an athlete, obviously, like you are afforded a little bit more leeway with assignments and with exams, and so I was really able to take advantage of that,
No
frankly.
way.
And yeah, I mean, I got through undergrad by doing the minimum from a academic standpoint, which is so funny because it's like the complete opposite now.
Yeah, yeah. And to our listeners, I think one point we have to highlight is the fact that you don't have to be a legal studies major. You don't have to be, a philosophy major. It really doesn't matter. The prerequisite for you to go to law school is for you to have graduated from an accredited university with just a bachelor's degree. It could be in biology, communication, psychology, business, legal studies, whatever it is. So, to our listeners out there, don't think, well, for me to be a great lawyer, for me to succeed in law school, I need to be a legal studies major. I'll tell you right now, I was a dual major in business, finance, and legal studies, and I couldn't really tell you what I learned in my undergrad legal studies courses that I've applied to law school or even now as a practicing attorney. So, I think that's the first myth we've busted now. You don't need to be a legal studies major for you to then transition to law school. And the second myth too is, and I get this a lot from students, Don, is and just law curious individuals, is like, well, I'm too old for law school. I can't do it. I'm in my late 20s. What? Man, I tell them all the time. I'm like, I decided to go to law school at 28. I decided to say, you know what, Ted? I'm going to stop this job. I was in finance. I had casual Fridays. I could wear jeans and polos. I had all major holidays. I wasn't stressed. It was completely fine. I said, you know what? And I had a great salary, right? So I think at the time I was like making 75,000, right? And relatively that was a lot of money, like you're in your 20s, you're making that kind of money, no real responsibilities. I had no children. I think I might have been dating. And I'm like, I'm going to give all that up, take some loans, and go to law school. So, myth number two, there is no set time for when you go to law school because even at the University of Miami, I had peers that were law students that were in their 50s and 60s. I had peers that were actual doctors. They were doing their JDMD. I know it's crazy. If you're listening and you're a JDMD, shout out to you because that is tough to go through the rigors of all of the medical program and then say, you know what I want? You know what I'm really feeling, Adon? I can't wait for some more punishment with
Yeah, I
contracts and
can't. I can't wait
everything
to go
like that.
back to school.
I
That's
can't wait
insane.
to get beat up. And Adon, another cool thing is, in a sense, you're a doctor. I mean, we could go off a whole tangent. I can on how I tell people I'm a doctor, and whenever we're in a plane and they're like, "Is there a doctor in here?" Sometimes I raise my head. I'm like, "What's going on? Is there some kind of breach of contract, or is someone trying to sue the airline?" So you're a doctor in your own way. So I want to ask. I want you to be very real with us and very real with our listeners. Like, dude, you're going into this field, you're going into law school, you're starting class. Like, how was it? Was it competitive? Were there any students that were like jerks? Like, what was going on? What was like the day to day like? Like, be real.
Yeah, Ted, and one thing I want to backtrack a little bit. I will second that. Like, I had students that were older than me by quite a bit in my classes, and I think that law school is one of the few like graduate programs that you really only need an LSAT score and a GPA from an undergrad, in your diploma. You don't need to, it's not like me going into like engineering or something where, you need like mathematics background. Like law is
Yeah.
like, it's very accessible for those who want to be great at it. But yeah, and then, going back to this question, I mean, how was law school? Um, I thought it was great. And, I started at the University of Miami, so I was there last year. And right from the get go, I thought the professors were awesome. We had Professor Torres on last week, and she was great. But I also had other professors that were really helpful. And the thing with law school is that, I mean, a lot of these professors, they're very smart and they really are distinguished in their field. I think when you go into academia, in the law, there's like this culture of like scholarship. I think all of them write papers and do research and whatnot. And I don't think in undergrad that was the case. So when you're talking with these individuals, they're just like at another level. You actually want to go to their office hours. It's not like I want to go to their office hours to get better grades. It's like no, like these people are at the top of the field in whatever they're teaching. And so you get some really interesting conversations out of it, and they have a lot of life experience as well, within the legal feel a lot of these people have been like Professor Torres was a partner at a law firm. Um, other professors that I had have worked in different industries as well, and so it's very different. It's way more. It's just yeah, it's just a step. It's a big league. Well, it's not the big leagues, but it's like
Yeah,
pro. It's like the difference between high school baseball and pro baseball
I
and
get
pro
it. And
baseball.
and Adan, I think you're doing the great thing. You're giving me, the very political and politically correct answer. But I need you to get nitty with me, man. Listen, you're going to something that you've never done before. I get it. You went to a great university. I also went there too, and they were qualified. But were there things in like your first week, first month where you're like, this is crap. Like I don't like this, or like what was going on? Like what can one of our listeners that's about to start class in the next 2 weeks learn from you based on the fact that you just did it?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be real with you. I think like the first couple weeks, I do think that they try to scare you almost.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah,
Like in
like
school,
what was that
yeah,
like?
yeah,
How?
yeah. I mean, it's more so like they'll give you a syllabus, and again, maybe coming from undergrad, I had never read a syllabus before, and then you show up to class and they're like, all right, did you guys do the reading for today? And they'll start cold calling people. I mean, in law school you have cold calls, which basically means that the professor will like they'll go over whatever cases you read for that day, and they'll ask questions about it, and they'll say, hey Ted, what do you think about this? And you'll be on the spot, and I mean there's 30, 40, sometimes 80, 100 people in the class, and you don't want to sound like an idiot, to be
Yeah.
frank. And so, I think that was pretty nerve-wracking at first, and it does happen. Like people will say, and there will be people in class that are like, they say some. I'm sure I've been a culprit, especially at the beginning of law school, that first semester. But yeah, it's I think that they do try to scare you. I went into one class, one of my civil procedure class. I love the professor; he was great, but man, he was scary that first week. We had 200-300 pages to read before the first class, and I mean I don't even think I even got to half of it, but he was asking questions the first day, and it was like very military style. And by the time the class was done, it was cool. I mean, we're boys, and I love this class. But man, that first week I was sweating for sure.
Yeah. No, and that's what that's what I want. And this episode, we just want to be able for some of our law curious and upcoming 1Ls, especially with this proximity to the start of the school year, like what to expect, right? So my next question to you is it's little Johnny, little Sally's first day. They're a 1L and it's their first semester. Like, what can they expect? Like, what classes are they going to be in? These classes tend to be a little bit universal throughout all law schools, but what are the core classes that your 1L semester that these students should expect to be taking?
Yeah, let's see. We have, I mean, like you said, it's very universal, the classes. I mean, I think some schools vary, by one or two classes, but most people are going to be taking torts, which is, I mean, I don't even know how to describe it. It's like personal injury law. If I had to
Zone of
explain,
danger.
yeah, if I had to,
Paul's graph.
if I had to explain it to somebody that's just starting out, like just what you would think like like personal injury, or like I think a tort is like when you get hurt or something, like physical injury. So you're gonna take torts, and that class has a lot of rules. I mean, it wasn't the worst class. It's definitely the most like I think it's good to start off with, because when you think of the law, a lot of times you think about personal injury. You see all the billboards,
Yeah.
so you actually do kind of learn a little bit in your 1L year. And 1L means first year, so 1L, 2L, 3L. That's just a year.
So you got torts. What
You got
else?
torts. You got what else did I have? We had contracts, and so contracts you don't actually learn how to make a contract. Like I still have no idea. Well, through my summer internship and some other experience, I do understand contracts a little bit better than
So you
most.
flesh that out later on. So you got torts, you got contracts
Yes.
that you should expect your first year. What else?
You have property, which that was probably I think it was my favorite. Like overall, I think it was property, just because I understood a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, you worked in construction, so that makes
Yes,
sense.
yes. So you have
So
property, and property is very usable in the real world too. I've
yeah,
already even now moving to Chicago with my lease and whatnot. Like property is pretty usable.
okay. So we got torts, contracts, property. What other classes should a new student be expecting their first semester of law school. So you've got three. What else?
Yeah, you're gonna have a legal writing class like the one
Yeah.
that we talked about last week with Professor Torres. You're gonna have like some sort of constitutional law class. Although I think some schools, like I know University of Chicago, doesn't take that their first year. I want to say I'm not. Don't quote me on that, but constitutional law. You learn about the Constitution. You have criminal procedure, or there's another one that's called criminal. There's crim pro and there's criminal something else criminal subcrim
Yeah.
substantive criminal law, which are slightly. I think they're slightly different. I only took crim pro, but I know some schools vary on what you take. Um, I think that's it. There's one class at University of Miami and coincidentally University of Chicago also take. It's called Elements, which I'm not quite sure. I think everybody that I've asked what is Elements tells me
Yeah.
something different. To me, it was almost like how how courts have. It's hard to explain.
Yeah,
How-
okay. Listen, so to our viewers, I graduated in 21, been practicing for a little bit over 4 years now. And I think most universities, going back to what Adan said, you're gonna have contracts, you're gonna have property, you're gonna have torts, and you're gonna have a legal writing course. At the bare minimum, your first semester of law school. So write
oh,
those
and
down.
civil procedure. How could I forget? I just
Yeah,
talked about civil
civil
procedure.
procedure as well. So write those down. These five core classes, they tend to make up your schedule, and you have no choice. You're voluntold. Like this is what you're taking. You get a little bit more freedom to pick your classes, maybe second semester, but for sure by your second year, third year. But there's also this very unique course. Let's call it like an experimental course because I know a few universities have it that they throw in there and it's really professor driven. It's really what that professor wants to teach you or to take you away from law school. So there's no way to define it like Adan has tried to do. So keep that in mind to our viewers. Now, you told us what to expect, Adan. You told us what to expect course wise. You told us the difference between, like being a non-traditional law student, like the curriculum and things like that. But how are the students? Like, or like, I need to know. Like, I mean, are your peers assholes? Are they like normal people? Like what should we expect?
Yeah, honestly, I think it varies by school. I
Yeah.
mean, there's definitely we spoke about it last week. The gunners, which a gunner is the person when the professor asks a question, they're gunning to the top. They're gunning their hand in the air, like they know every answer. And at first, I was very. I remember we had a couple gunners in my classes, and I was like, man, like how are they so smart? Like how do they know all this stuff? And the truth was that they really didn't most of the time. And they're just very good at speaking and making it sound nice. But once I started learning the material, I was like, wait, like, and especially as you start thinking more like a lawyer, where you question everything, you're like, wait, that's not right. And so yeah, you get those, and they're not like, you know, they're nice people. It's just like you'll see it. It's just funny. It's they're characters. You also get people that are there just for their own interests. Like they get in, they get out. They don't really mingle. I thought most of the people at University of Miami were pretty cool, honestly. Like I made some personal friends that I would hang out with them sometimes, and I think some schools get a rap of not students not cooperating, like them not helping each other with notes or anything. I never had an issue with that. Maybe once or twice,
Yeah, but
and then
why would they help? I mean, another thing for viewers, I mean, why would they help? Aren't you all competing against each other, right?
yeah,
There's a ranking
yeah.
system. Like, talk to us about that. Like, what is the ranking system in the simplest way? What is the ranking system at a law school?
Yeah, so the ranking system, I mean, basically, you, everybody in your class has to take final exams at the end of the year. And everybody, I mean, the way that I would explain it is that everybody gets a different grade. Like you're ranked literally from one to, we had 305 in my class at University of Miami. And so, like, for example, one person gets the highest grade. It's not like two people can get 100% or two people can get a 90. Like, one person gets 100 and one person gets a 99. And so, there's a curve. So if you're the top of the curve, you'll get an A plus, an A, B plus. If you're below it, you'll get B minus. I think University of Miami was just A through C minus, I want to say. Every school does it differently, but you're always ranked against each other. And so, yeah, that does breed a lot. It breeds competitiveness. I don't think at University of Miami it messed with cooperation, at least in my experience. I mean, I know I definitely like when people ask me for notes, there's always I mean, I think there's a human side of you that's like, wait, like I'm competing against this person, like do I really want to give them my notes? But I mean, you got for me it was like, okay, like put like the emotional part aside, like the, and let's just be like logical, like these people they might help you later. They might be your friends. Like they still have to learn it. If you give them your notes or your outline, they still have to, understand the material. That's the one thing about law school exams that I will say is like nobody can save you. Like if you're not prepared for the exam, like there's nothing that like you need to study well and prepare to be
Yeah.
able to do well.
And that's a good mentality to have. You have a mentality of abundance, you know. So Adan did a great job explaining the ranking system. So you're ranked from day one. So what to expect? Yeah, you're going to classes that you may not know how to study, you may not know what's important, and you may have 300 plus reading days. Little tip, and over time you realize the secret to law school is time management, managing the professor's expectation and what's important, right? So if all your classes are telling you you need to read 300 pages before tomorrow, there's not enough time in the day. So it's really hedging yourself. You're almost like I need to read that much. I know I'm looking at the syllabus. I know this is important, so I need to make sure I know this topic. I may not get to the whole 300 page, but I know I'm ready to discuss this. And I do that for the next class, but you also need to know you're ranked amongst your peers. And that's, I mean, that's just the bottom line.
I honestly kind
And
of liked it. I'm not gonna lie.
yeah,
I'm pretty competitive, like especially coming from
baseball.
sports. Like I was like, all right, game on. And then the funny part is when grades come out and everybody's like, oh, like what'd you get? What'd you get? And then you start trying to figure out like, okay, what's this person ranked? What's this person ranked? Especially your 1L year, like Miami doesn't, they don't release rankings until after the second semester.
Uh-huh.
And so it's like it's almost like I don't know high school or not high school law school is almost like an extension of high school, but like with smarts, like okay, what does this person have, what did this person get in that class, like oh they did well, or there's also an award called the Cali Award, which is like the top grade in the class. And so it's like oh who Cali this class. So I thought it was pretty funny, and I do think, I mean, like again we're human, like competition drives people, and so you're gonna get people that really they get after it because they wanna rank high. And I don't think that's a bad thing. It's like capitalism. Like it's like companies fighting to have the best product and to be more profitable.
Yeah.
It's definitely not the best for mental health or for any of that stuff. But I do think it breeds greatness as far as like output.
Yeah, and I'll leave it to our viewers to decide whether or not the ranking system is good or bad. But what I will tell you is the ranking system is the system that's been, in these universities for quite some time. And it's the system that really determines your trajectory. Because when you're going through, and we'll talk about this later, when you're going through, on campus interviews or OCIs and you're going for summer internships, like I have not seen one resume without that individual person's GPA score or rank number, because that's a like a ding, that's like a highlight to the hiring individual, like okay, this person's doing well in their school or their university, so that means there's this correlation, that means they're going to do well working for me. So the ranking is important. So going into law school, your first day, your first week, your first month, you may not know what's going on, but you want to get on board and get on it as quickly as possible. So you make sure you lock it in. And Adan, what was your rank when you were, last year at the University of Miami? I mean,
Man, I
I
know.
mean, you talked all this competitive stuff.
Oh
Where were
god.
you? Were you, like what's a baseball term? Bottom of the ninth? Where were you at?
I did well last year.
What does that mean? Why
I
are you
was
so modest?
I ended up being sixth in my class, tied
Six
for
out of how many
tied for
people,
sixth. We had
Adan?
we had 305. But now you're
Six
getting
out of 305, right? What's the
yeah, yeah,
math?
yeah.
Pull out a calculator. What percentage are you at right now?
I
Top
think it's
what?
like yeah, I think it's like top 2% or something. Now you're making me sound arrogant now.
It's not about arrogance. You worked your ass off and you were top 2% of your class. And and my next question, did being ranked higher make it easier for you to get a summer job or summer program?
Yeah, and I mean that's one thing that I wanted to touch on, Ted, is I see like on LinkedIn and Twitter and all these, it's like there's a lot of, and I think this is true of just like any industry. There's a lot of like coddling of people saying like, oh, if you didn't do well, it's okay. Like you'll still have opportunities. Like you can still do well later on. Like yeah, that might be true. Like you can, but it just having good grades at first, even that just at first, I got my two internships. Like it didn't even matter that I was six because I had everything set up. My transfer, my first internship, my second internship from just my fall grades, and so literally, like if you work your butt off that first fall and you get good grades, like it will really, especially if you're like in the beginning of your career. I think I haven't been there yet because I'm still in school, but coming from other industries, like the better you start, the better you'll probably end up because you're not fighting an uphill battle. I think even like I think about it in baseball terms. Like if you go, I went to A&T, which is a small Division 1 school. If I had gone to University of Florida, which is the same as Division 1, same level, but it's an SEC school, I have a much better chance of playing professional baseball out of the University of Florida than I would at A&T. Like it's just true. Now A&T, it's possible to play professional baseball. They've had multiple draft picks the last few years. But University of Florida, or or name anyone, LSU, the big programs have maybe 5, 10, 15 people getting drafted. And so it's the same with law school. It's like if you like these firms, and I mean, if you're, yeah, anywhere, even like what is it, clerkships or even small firms, like they're looking at the top of the class, and I think it's pretty unfair to like coddle law students or anybody in general. Say like it's okay, like just because you didn't do well, and the reason why you didn't do well probably is because you didn't prepare well enough. Some people say they worked as hard as they could. I don't think if you don't do like well, then you probably didn't because it's honestly it's not that hard. Like I'm not that smart. I'm not very like that smart honestly. I did not do well in undergrad. In my high school, I did average as well, and I just really tried hard last semester. So yeah, I mean, if we're getting real. Like
Yeah,
yeah, it
no,
matters. It matters a
it
lot, like how
does.
you do.
And I agree. It really does matter. And in practicing and in also being a and it being a I guess an interview coach and doing mock interviews with students where they send me their real resume and I look it over and I think to myself, if my firm were hiring, would I hire that individual? My eyes automatically goes to their involvement, what they're ranked, what their GPA is, and then everything else is ancillary. So it does matter. At the bottom line, to our listeners, to those that are law curious, to those 1Ls incoming in the next couple weeks, focus, lock it in, and focus. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have a life, right? And I have a few more questions before we wrapped up. One being to this point, Adan, what was your work-life balance? It's your first semester, 1L. Like, were you going out? Were you hitting up club space? Were you going to Komodo, tea room? I mean, what were you doing? Were you going out or were you just locked in studying all the time to become, top 2% of your class? What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really go out much. I'm engaged, so I have we're not very. She has a job. I'm in law school, and I was also building Law Bandit. I did not really take too much time for free time. I mean, on the weekend, we go to the farmers market or we go out for a date night, have a drink. I think that's what separates Ted. Like the people, I think on Reddit they call them KJDs, like people that go straight from undergrad to law school.
What's K Day?
I
Wait,
don't know
what
what
is
it
it?
stands for. I have no idea what it stands for. I just been on Reddit and it's they call them
You
KJ.
got
They
you
have all these
gotta
acronyms. They have all these acronyms because they're
listen,
preparing for law review, and a law review you have a bunch of acronyms.
Adon. You gotta stop spending your weekends in the bowels of Reddit. You gotta stop in these deep dark chats. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think that's a lot of the KJ, the people that are coming straight from undergrad, they might have been in a frat or they might have just been a regular college student. They come in and they want to have like that same like a similar life, and so they go out more, they party more. A lot of my peers did, and a lot of the people that I met there at UM, like the younger ones, which was most of my friends were younger because the ones that are older than me have like kids. I'm not hanging out with the 40, 50-year olds, but I think they had a bit more of like work life balance. They played work hard, play hard. I mean, I had a decent enough balance where if I felt like I was getting burnt, by from reading 8 hours a day, I would be able, I would have time to relax. But I also gave it my all, to do well. So I worked long enough to be able to do as well as I wanted to, but I took enough time off to make sure I don't get burnt out, which I actually hate the term burnt out because I feel like a lot of people use it now and it gets played out, but you do need that. Do need that balance so you could think clearly. But yeah, I think you have enough, like at least one day a week or 2 days a week where you can like just kind
Yeah.
of coast.
And it's all about balance, right? Everybody has 24 hours in the day. No one has more. No one has a secret hour that they, cash in that no one else knows about. There's 24 hours. And I'm a very meticulous person. I've been told many times maybe I fall higher on the side of a spectrum. And I'm like color coordinated, very organized, and it's about balance, right? You don't want to get, as Adan said, burnt out, but you also want to like if you're reading 8 hours straight, you want to take a walk, like talk to your significant others, hang out with your pet, go to dinner, do these things.
Mhm.
But the point where the point of no return, where we cross the Rubicon is where you're like every weekend you're going out or you're going out before a big exam or like your midterm, you're going out before your final and you're like out drinking or out at the
Yeah.
Heat game, the
I do have a
baseball
funny
games.
I do have a funny story, Ted. So near finals, there's a week before finals. Everybody there's a thing called reading week. So you have like a week to study, you don't have class. And so again, I don't go out too much. Neither does my fiance. I was like, man, like I want to get everybody together to, like let's have a get together at my place. And so I reached out to a lot of my friends from law school. I was like, hey, we should do like a little like a get together, since we don't have class this week. Every single person said no. They're like, let's do it next week after finals because we're like hunkered in. I was like, wait, weren't you guys the people that were out the whole semester? Now you guys are having to catch up. But anyway, so that week I wanted to do something because I'm just like, man, like we're getting to the end of the semester. Like I'm not doing anything this weekend. Like I've already, I'm basically ready for my exams. And so we got invited to Enrique, like not Enrique Iglesias, what's his name? J Balvin. J Balvin was having like it was during like art, was it
Art Basel?
design? No, it was design. The isn't the design district? Like Fashion Week, something like that, something with fashion or art. It wasn't Art Basel, but it might have been Art Basel. But anyways, so we get invited to this. My fiance, she's an architect. She gets invited to this, and so we go and we go and party like we haven't partied the whole semester. And this is on a Saturday. I had an exam, I think, on Monday. It ended up being okay, but I would not recommend it. But I guess I did at the end of the semester. It's like, all right, like we're done. Let's finish
Yeah,
it.
but I think your story is different. You said something that I think some of our listeners are going to pick up on. You said you've pretty much maintained and kept up with your studies to the point you were like, "Oh, I've built in so much time and I've put in the work that now I can enjoy myself. Yeah, this event's great." And it goes back to the message, it's all about balance, right? To our listeners that are like, well, I'm going to have no life. I'm never going to see my parents. I'm never going to hang out with my significant other. I'm never going to have time to walk my dog. That is not true. Yes, we've said ranking is important. Yes, we've said you may not know what this one class is about, or you may not understand it, or you may have a lot of reading assignments. Yes, all those things are true. But if you create a schedule and if you're disciplined, you will build in that time for yourself. And
Yeah, I will
one
say,
thing,
sorry to cut
go
you off,
ahead,
Ted. I
Adam.
will say, it's just this is bringing so many memories. I actually, I said reading 8 hours. Like, I don't think anybody can actually humanly read for 8 hours. I've tried to read for long periods of time. Like, you need to take small breaks. And if you say you don't, you're lying. Like, I had a couple classmates saying like, yeah, I read for 12 hours yesterday. It's like, no, you didn't. Like, there's no way. Like, you
Yeah.
probably stopped, you ate lunch, you probably took a walk, maybe watched, you probably scrolled, took out your phone and scrolled. So, I mean, the human body can only do so much. It's very capable and it's very incredible what the human body can do and the human brain, but it does have its limits.
Yeah, it does. And before we wrap up, you said something that I don't know if anybody caught. He said not only was he studying and, like trying to be, top of his class, which he did, top 2%. That's quick maths. You developed this thing called Law Bandit. So real quick, what is Law Bandit? How did it help you?
Yeah, I think we touched on this a little bit the first episode. So when I started law school again, like I didn't really know what how to take notes or what to do, and so I had developed an app before, like I decently astute at programming, and so I started just building my own like tool to take notes that was connected. I basically connected my notes app that I was doing on Word with ChatGPT. That's like a very like high level view of it. And then eventually, as I kept learning, like, okay, this is what we need to know, this is what we need to know, this is how you put it together, I started creating new features to facilitate all of that. And so, yeah, that's the app. You know, it's called Law Bandit. It's the main reason why we we're on this podcast right now. Why we met, and I think it's a very good tool for. I mean, especially we have law school. A lot of them are starting next week. Like, if you don't know where to like what tool to use, just check it out. I mean, it doesn't hurt you, and if anything, it's free. ChatGPT credits. Actually, we use Claude by Anthropic, which is better, but we can leave that for another day. Um, but yeah, it's like an all-in-one law school study tool. You could really do anything in it that you would need to do for your classes within it, except you might need to pull out a Word document to turn in your assignments, but that's really about it.
Well, you heard it from the man, the myth, the legend himself first, the guy who went from playing baseball and, with the utmost respect, didn't do much undergrad, was bare minimum student, turned law school student, turned top 2% of his class. And he developed an amazing app that's being utilized by a lot of his peers right now, currently at the university. And through that app, it's what not only sponsors this podcast, but the app that actually helped them get to top 2%. So, Adan, I want to thank you again. Like we do these one-on-ones where you and I just get to speak because we want to filter through some of the questions we're getting. We've been getting questions from our viewers like, what does the first day look like? What should I expect? And I'm like, well, let's do a podcast about it. You just experienced this less than a year ago, and keep the questions coming. Adan, I'm going to have you sign us off, and definitely I appreciate your time on this.
Yeah, Ted. No, thank you, and thank you to everybody that is tuning in to watch us. So again, this is Ted Del Cima. I'm Adan Ordonez, and this is the Bar None podcast. And once again, the Bar None podcast is sponsored by Law Bandit, a law school study tool. But yeah, that's all I got. Like, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. So we'll see you guys
And
next
if you
time.
have any questions, keep them coming. We'll see you guys next time, all right?
Alrighty,
Ciao now.
bye.